Ukrainian forces have destroyed a Russian warship off the coast of Crimea as the country's military moves into a defensive position. Joining me now is Kira Rudik, member of the Ukrainian Parliament, leader of the political party Golos. What does this attack tell us about Ukraine's wider offensive? Can you tell us what this means? What's happening?
Hello, Nadine. Thank you so much for having me. Well, it means that though Ukraine seemed to disappear from the first pages of the newspapers in the world, we are still here, we are fighting, and the war is not over. And we do not intend to give up until we win the war and restore our sovereignty and liberate our people. This is our main goal. And you see, it's pretty amazing that the country with almost no fleet has already destroyed 25% of Russia's fleet, and we intend to do more. This is what is happening on the sea. On the ground, the situation is indeed really tough, especially because the plans to receive ammunition and the supplies from our Western partners are not going as planned. There is a significant delay with the ammunition that was promised during the last year. And of course, you see how the support package for Ukraine is being blocked in the US Congress. This support package is critical. It includes 60 billion. Most of this amount is for the weapons, and we need those weapons badly.
So, Kira, can I ask you, so it's being held up at the Congress. Can I ask you, we're going into elections in America, they're in a pre-election period now. What does the notion of Donald Trump becoming president mean to you in Ukraine?
It is a huge threat, especially given the fact what this candidate has openly said, something like ending the war just in one day, and then like trying to get a deal with Putin. I think President Zelensky was absolutely right when he replied by saying that we invite Mr. Trump to Ukraine so he will be able to witness what is happening by his own eyes, and maybe he would change his mind and his opinion. And I think it's very fair, because it's very easy to talk about some things that you can fix and try to find simple solutions for complicated matters. But it's much harder to look people in the eye, the ones who lost their families, their loved ones, lost their homes, and now what they need is justice for all the war criminals that committed that to them.
And has the invitation been extended to Donald Trump?
Well, I think it was open invitation by President Zelensky, but it did not get any answer on that. And I do not believe that we will get any answer on that. But the threat is there, and the threat is that there would be people in the democratic leadership in all democratic countries that would bear this illusion that you can have a deal with Putin. However, right now, up till this point, there is not a person or an organization in the whole world that can make sure that Putin will keep his part of the bargain in any agreement, in any negotiation. This is why for everyone who is talking about peace talks, a peace deal, my question is, like, how do you make sure that Putin will not change his mind the next day after that? And until there is a solution, there is no possibility about any talks or any agreements at all.
I say, Kira, you're pushing an open door here. We completely agree with you. What about the 60 billion worth of aid? Has it already been promised to you? It's already been allocated, and it just isn't leaving America to get to you. What is causing the holdup?
Well, it is the discussions that are happening in the Congress and the inability of Democrats and Republicans to figure out the way how they can fulfill the promise that President Biden, on behalf of American people, gave us to stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes. It turns out that it became much harder for him to fulfill this promise at this prior to election year. And what we see right now, that for every day of the delay, for every day of those tough Congress negotiations, we are paying with the lives of our people, with the people who get bombarded at night and die in their beds, with the people who are fighting at the front and do not have enough ammunition, by the people who have to run from their homes because they live under the constant threat of being murdered and tortured and raped. And this is happening like every single day to us. And honestly, it is incredibly hard to explain to people at the front what exactly is going on in the Congress and why there is like no solution to just go and vote for this amount. It is fairly like less than 0.1% of general defense budget of the United States. And it was not supposed to be such a big deal for the US Congress, but now Ukraine became a hostage of these political debates, and America right now witnesses how they cannot agree on this right thing, that if you are a democratic leader and you make a promise, you have to execute on this promise.
Well, we couldn't agree more with you. And, you know, Kira, thank you for making your point so well. Could you do something for me? Could you say hello to Alexander, your culture minister, for me? I worked with him for a year post the I was Secretary of State for Culture, and I worked with him for a year post the invasion. And I thought he was an incredibly brave man, a great advocate for Ukraine. And are you safe? Are you safe, Kira? Are you managing to function as a government now? Are you out to get together more than you were? Because at the time when I was culture minister, you were all operating out of bunkers.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you. I will absolutely send the regards. We, as a parliament, we are operating and we are gathering in the chambers. However, it is still, we are doing it not openly because the threat is still very high. A month ago, there was a missile hit that was just near where I live, and my windows were pulled out of the frames, and there was a huge destruction in the neighborhood. And I was really lucky that I had only minor injuries. Not many of my neighbors were so lucky. And so right now we are in the process of the rebuild and heal our wounds. But the attack and the response to this attack from Ukrainian people showed me that no matter how hard it is on 2 years since full-scale invasion started, we still have it in ourselves to stay strong together, to help each other, to make sure that we survive, to not leave anybody behind, and to push forward together. And, you know, when this attack happened, there was like no discussions or no like bickering. It was just full of love and people were trying to survive. And I'm so proud of Ukrainian people for being so strong.
And Kira, we're proud of you. You're formidable and you're brave and you have our full support. Thank you for coming.
So much.
Thank you for joining us today. So, gosh, you know, we talk about all the things that affect us, like shoplifting and, you know, other things that are going on. And when you speak to, honestly, I was so impacted by the year that I worked with Alexander on a daily basis, the hardship they face, the bravery they display, the threat they live under every single day. Philip, can you, and you know, what she spoke about, what she touched on then, you know, the aid not getting out of America because of the pre-election negotiations, the threat that they are feeling that Trump may very likely become president. It's all very scary stuff. But Philip, can you explain to us, you know, we went into this story on, you know, something that's happened this morning. Can you explain to us what it is as somebody with a military background, what's going on?
Wow, there was so much in that interview there and getting in with it. The military reality of what's happened is the Russian ship Caesar Kunikov was attacked by 6 Ukrainian drones in the Black Sea and it was sunk. It's a 112-metre large landing ship that's used by the Russians to move logistics stores around to...
So there would have been sailors on that?
So there would have been sailors on that, and there would have been military stores. This is the second one of these ships that the Ukrainians have sunk. And of course, they've also sunk a guided missile cruiser, the Moskva, and they've destroyed a Russian submarine in dry dock. All in all, they've destroyed about 25 Russian vessels.
And the Ukrainians 3,000 Russian tanks.
Oh, well, you lots of Russian tanks and other bits and pieces. The issue here is people are measuring the Ukrainian success by the movement of the front line. physically on the ground. That's very one-dimensional. This is a 3- or 4-dimensional conflict. And these attacks in the Black Sea, combined with the attacks against Moscow and Russian airfields and oil refineries and all the rest, are all being coordinated by General Budanov, who heads the Ukrainian military intelligence. It's all special operations type activities that are going on that are keeping the Ukrainians' momentum going whilst they're waiting for this Western ammunition to come in. That's $60 million. The ammunition they're waiting for from the United States.
60 billion.
$60 billion. That's being tied up with internal domestic politics in the United States about solutions to US's southern border with Mexico. And that's why the Congress is tying it up and everything else. What people don't realize is that $60 billion is not going to be given to Ukraine in cash terms. It's going to go in ammunition terms. The ammunition is going to be manufactured in the United States. That $60 billion is going to go into funding US manufacturing capability, employing new jobs, more supply chain going in and everything else. It's good for the US economy. And therefore...
Why are they taking so long then?
US Congress are hurting their own economy by tying all these internal politics. It's all because we're in an election year and it's Republican versus Democrat and they're just point scoring. But the trouble is, as Kira said, that point scoring is being paid for in Ukrainian lives today.
Yeah, that's a really well put. Becca, do you think that the reason why it's playing into the pre-election year or election year of the American elections is because the Republicans are less keen to help out Ukraine, they're less keen to fund the assistance for Ukraine? Is that why?
Yeah, I think you're completely right. I think, we saw the Tucker Carlson-Putin interview, didn't we, over the weekend?
Wasn't that the most
Which was
bizarre?
kind of wild.
Interview, are we allowed to call it?
Maybe interviews a bit. But sort of tapping into this idea that, that everyday Americans are paying into a war, on a continent. And it plays, doesn't it? To hard up Americans who don't understand why their tax dollars are being spent. And Trump has got that kind of very powerful rhetoric around NATO members not paying their way. So you can see how it could, play into their hands.
Do you know how I can see this? I was in New York a while ago and a pregnant woman fell over in the road on the ice. And everybody rushed to help her. And she was saying, please don't call an ambulance. I can't afford it. Please don't call an ambulance. So you can see the daily lives of Americans who can't afford for healthcare, and a pregnant woman who falls over in the ice can't afford to pay for an ambulance. You can see why they have that reaction to... But, this is live. This is life and death, what's happening in Ukraine.
Yeah, exactly. The line that this is being paid for in Ukrainian lives, really should hammer home. And the courage that Kira speaks with, just going about her daily life with the threat of what's going on, I think is astounding. But it's totally being weaponised, isn't it, by Trump and that kind of MAGA movement in the States.
It is, but US politicians don't seem to care about the lives of US children and those that are in crowds with gun crime across the United States. So why do the US people then care about people's lives overseas?
Guys, we could put the world to rights, couldn't we, here?